are still on people's minds here.
Yeah. No,
it's the best way for me to put it, because we have plenty of players that are playing in Sweden, but you don't see the give and take. You don't see them coming back. They might go somewhere else in Europe and stuff, but you see that with the Australian league. And I think that, like I said, you're not out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, I mean, which is a great point. Which is, again, obviously it's going to be a different relationship in regards to USL Super League and NWSL. But the more opportunities out there for players to play at a good level, the better goalkeeping is going to be. All right, let's get into these clips here. This is a game that actually I got to see in person. And Sus, did you call this the Angel City Bay game? Did you call this
first game of the season?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So the 8th minute.
Thanks for bringing up the game we lost. That's great. Thanks. That's okay. I'm just kidding.
But Liz was awesome in the game.
I know. I called it. But this is probably the national. I did the locals. But yes, go ahead.
So anyway, Alyssa Thompson takes like a shot. It's kind of like this high looping ball. Like this is kind of a weird ball because it's like this deflection that falls to Emsley. Yep. And then just down quick to parry away from post. And then what I love is the recovery movement. Just good immediate awareness of where that ball's dangerous and just covering that area. I mean, I think this is just high goalkeeper IQ and problem solving to the nth degree, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Emsley doesn't get a full, like she kind of hits it down into the ground. So that's something else to deal with. This isn't a clean hit, right? It bounces a couple times, which is not an easy situation. You're talking about 6 yards away and the ball's bouncing. And when the ball's bouncing and spinning, like you have no idea if this is going to be like a lacrosse ball and ricochet and do something. So to be able to hold your body positioning to still come up with a parry, which in my opinion is a really good parry as well, because how many goalkeepers we see would drop that into LaRue right there and it'd be like tucked into the back of the net. But instead you give yourself enough of a hard hand on the ball to get it out far enough so you can recover, right? So you can actually get up and recover. And that's what's good about this. That's a nice hard hand. And now you're back on top of it and you're covering it in your post. So it's good goalkeeping all around.
Yeah. Thoughts, Lise?
Yeah, I mean,
told you this will pump your ego up.
See? Thoughts on why you're awesome, huh? Do you want to hear some? Tell us why you're great.
If I see something, I'll tell you. It's good goalkeeping.
Hey, if you want, Susk leaves the other stuff for gloves off with Bill Reno.
This is true. But this clip wouldn't be on gloves off because it's goalkeeping.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of in this clip was very much kind of last minute decision making, because just in that moment right before you press play, I'm still kind of talking to people.
You're organizing. I saw your hand.
Yeah. So I think a lot of things are just, a fraction of a second kind of last moment decision pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing, but that's also recognizing in regards to like being present in the moment, because like what's the most important thing right now versus like what could potentially happen. Like, don't worry about what could potentially happen. Deal with what's happening in the moment.
But there's also so much that goes into that. You know that Emsley really doesn't have a near post shot here because you're and like if for people to think that everything you think this, but you don't realize you think this, right? Because you've seen it so many times. So you're positioning your square and everything like that. But Emsley also can't go near post here because it's not Didasco, but whoever that is on her has that space. She'll hit it off somebody. So she comes across. So you're set and you're ready for that far post. And it's a really weird ball, and you still make the most of it. So I think it's just good goalkeeping. I would say you don't have to point when you're organizing. So bring your hand down. Like
I do that too. I do that too. I do it too.
I like it. But that would be my only critique if you want.
I do it too because it's loud there. There's like 30,000 people.
Yeah, but you're still just like, yeah, it's just funny because you see goalkeepers like going like this. I'm like, I don't really
and you know what's funny as well is like when I was younger, I remember watching videos with coaches, and they were like, you need to communicate, like, and I'm like, I am communicating, but they would only tell me I was communicating if they could physically see it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I think growing up,
You
I
started
was like,
pointing and doing all that.
yeah, doing the whole shabazz, whatever.
I used to tease Hannah about that at UCLA because she'd be pointing and organizing the ball. I'd be like, "Can you pick the ball out of the back of the net now?" Like, I'm like, you're still over here, and the ball's in there. And I'm like, but I just think it's funny. I was like,
yeah,
but I get it.
To be fair, have you seen the roster of Bay FC? They all speak like 17 different languages. Like, what you gonna do? Yeah,
it's a good point. It's a good point.
Swedish. You can do this in French. You can do this in Italian.
Didasco right now to watch Sid. I think she's got it, but it's funny.
All right, let's move away from this this play right here. So after this, this is gonna end right here.
Fuller? Who took that other shot?
So
Sorry.
Speaking of Fuller, this actually is, I think it's a through ball that she plays in right here into Maggie Howard, one-time shot. Again, great. You got that depth down, obviously, because you understand that you're going to have time to react if you drop back for that depth right there. And just nice, clean ball away from danger. Again, so many young goal. Okay, I'm going to do that again here. Hold on. Starting here. Okay. Do you want to start all the way through?
No, yeah, just play it. I'm just watching.
Okay. Through ball, one-timer, boom, out. And that's the play. Again, it's been, I don't think a lot of young people might be able to see this right here just because of the visual image right here, but I was there in person. That ball was bending away from the near post. So you kind of had to keep guiding that ball out of bounds. If you had tried to stay forward and tried to meet that ball, I think that you probably would have played it into a space where there could have been another shot on goal. And so it's just better just to play it out of bounds.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
To be honest, when I touched that ball, I kind of weirdly, it kind of hit the bottom of my hand. Like it wasn't a clean kind of push away, if that makes sense. Like you can see how much I slow the ball down as it like hits me. And so it wasn't like a clean. So for me, I got a little lucky that it, like when I saw it on the post, I was like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I like is the adjust. I agree with Mike. I like getting depth. I said because you come near post, you're kind of respecting the fact that LaRue's in there, and you're not sure where Kennedy's going to play the ball. Like, is she going to try to slot this into LaRue, who's running past the post? I mean, it's a split second. She doesn't. But in that time, you have to get depth and you have to reset for Maggie's shot. And I know what you're talking about. You come down on top of the ball instead of through the ball, which is why it kind of like goes under your hand a little bit, but it slows it down enough. But I still think, and I agree with Mike, I think the footwork here, giving yourself a little depth and everything. Because if you don't give yourself depth here, I don't know if she might beat you. Like, with
I
pace.
won't have enough time to get down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is something that I always try to explain to young goalkeepers, Lisa, is that like you don't always have to advance into space. Like advancing into space isn't always the right decision. And I mean, and based on that through ball going into more of a negative, deeper position, if you had stayed high, pace probably would have beaten you.
Pace can beat you. There's a time to get depth. There's not a time to get depth going all the way into your goal on the other side of the line. And I'm just going to make a little nod to how I feel about that. But also nothing, she's a great goalkeeper. It just boggles my mind how that's like, it's the only goalkeeper I know that does that, Jane Campbell. And I'm like, and she got scored on by Angel City for it. But I think the depth here is what gives you the chance to make this save.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's a great point. All right, let's move on from here. I want to move to Australia after. See, look at that, just comfortable with your teammates already, just right there with them. So this is, I believe, Malia Morris, I think, dribbles inside. It's a shot to the near post. You got good coverage, and you play it out of danger. Again, this is again a situation where, like, if you played that into the area, into the space, that could lead to another shot based on the angle of that ball. I think. But
now I think it's the opposite of what we just talked about. Have you given too much depth here, then you could have gotten scored on. Like, I think your positioning off your line is good, and it allows you to make the save and put it around the post. Where if you're not high enough, then maybe you don't get to the ball.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you dive into the goal.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, also there's another thing too, is like, we can't see it in this angle here because I was trying to tighten in, but like she continues her dribble as opposed to, her veering sideways or stopping or anything like that. So like, based on that, like, that's where it's not a perfect science. Every situation is different. And that's kind of my problem with like a lot of like session designs with young goalkeepers, is like, they try to like do like, in this scenario, you do this. It's like, yeah, but it's not always going to be like this. Like that ball could bounce like this.
I think going back to your size, right? So this is where you can say to those deniers of you, look, my positioning is spot on. I've adapted my way of playing because of my size, right? So if this is a Casey Murphy or somebody, is Casey further back because she's 6'1"? She can cover more space. Probably Casey would probably be at the 6, but I mean, she loves playing high off her line. But like, how would Rollins set up for this? And you've adapted your play because of your size to be in the right position to make the save, along with your athleticism, because you're ridiculously athletic as well. So I think that is the argument there. And that's the argument to anybody that says, well, you're 5'7", or 5'8". Well, yeah, but look at my positioning on these, and so this is a good example of that.
Don't say.
I see it says recording.
Yeah,
now it says recording. Now you're good to go.
Strong start.
All right, here we go.
Welcome back to Gloves Off. We have the 1999 World Cup champion Saskia Weber, which I've been given a little bit of info on some publicizing we're going to be doing. I actually stumbled on this. I didn't tell you this earlier, but I stumbled on this at the start. We have some cards coming out, and it caught my eye, obviously just as the cards themselves, but the bottom right there, we've got a nice Saskia Weber card there. I don't know if you've seen that.
I hadn't seen that they threw me up on there.
Yeah,
nice. I like cool. That. Usually it's like, the advertisement's reserved for like Mia and them, but
yeah. So I was scrolling. I was like, oh, I wonder how many. And I was looking. I was like, hey, there's Saskia right there. So, and a great pose there. I love it. So it's good. I think you've actually got the
red, white, blue.
In your
I
hair.
do. And for the 25th anniversary, this is going back for the 25th anniversary, which we're going to the U.S. game against Mexico, right? In July 10th. It's right up there. You can see it on the thing. And the whole team's going. Even staff are going in. Wow. We'll be in there for three days doing we're doing the Today Show. Some of the girls are going to ring the stock exchange bell. Awesome. Then we're doing a bunch of stuff. We're going to go watch training, meet the, new coaching staff, which will be kind of interesting because I get to see Denise Reddy, who we played in college together as well. And then, it's just going to be great. Everybody's going. So, sometimes when we do these reunions, not everybody makes it, but the entire team's going to be there. So really excited. We have our own 99er swag coming out. So you'll see us in that stuff as well. And you can buy that starting, I think, July 10th as well. So it's just a lot going on. Yeah, hey, it was a great moment in time, and I get to keep reliving it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, I'm trying to think seminal moments in women's soccer. Maybe even just the number 99 was the perfect number or the perfect year to have won the World Cup. I don't know. There's just something iconic about 99ers, 1999. The Rose Bowl is just obviously huge moments there. So yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's I was just scrolling through. I just saw this. I was like, okay, I'll pull this.
Yeah, you have to send me that.
Yeah, I will. But no, it's cool.
I love that you found it.
Yeah. Well, I try to keep my eye on. I have a goalkeeper card collection. To no surprise here. So, but yeah, I was happy to stumble on that. It's just good.
Well, I have to get you one. I don't have them.
We'll get that autograph on it.
But hopefully they'll hand me a pack of them when I'm there. But we did the signatures. I did those about a month ago.
Oh, okay. Funny.
2 months ago. Sat here and did all the signatures. And mail them back. So
it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Well, here on Gloves Off, we obviously talk about goalkeeping, and we're doing it from a fair and balanced kind of analytical, being honest with what we're talking about, the positives and negatives. And I don't think we can really get into today's episode without talking about the men's side. So typically we're covering the women's game, which can go in a number of different directions. But the men's national team obviously bottomed out if you were not living under a rock for this last week here. And there's a lot to take away. I've got the Uruguay and Panama highlights here. I didn't pull Bolivia's, but I'll just run this. But immediate reaction, Saskia, as far as watching the men and kind of struggle in a group that they really should have advanced out of. I think everyone's on the same page about that. But what were kind of your thoughts of watching the U.S. playing Panama and how we struggled, or just in that group stage, how we struggled against Panama and Uruguay?
As a team as a whole, we have no identity. And that, that's really my takeaway. And then turning around and watching Holland play in the Euros and just watching, there's such a chaos to the way, whether you want to say teams out of this region play, but the U.S. plays to that chaos. So they fed into Panama's chaos. Yeah. And the style of play, to me, they're lost. They don't have an identity. They don't have a style. Who are you trying to be? Like, what is your, like, you sit back and you say, why is this absolutely like crazy? The pace is crazy. The fouls are ridiculous. To me, it's like I said, it's chaos, and we have no identity. And when you have no identity and you get sucked into the way other people play, you're going to lose. Yeah. And when I sat back and I watched Holland play, and I was just like, look at that flow and that style and that build and those passes, 10 passes in a row before even getting an opportunity. The service is on point, breaking down teams. And you just watch that and you're like, it's chaos. Like there's no comparison. I don't think we're even on, when you look at the majority of the teams in the Euros as well, we're not even on the same page. We're not. And I thought Tim Weatherton is absolutely the most selfish and ridiculous thing I've seen. And he should put his head down. You're punching somebody in the back of the head off the ball. You think with VAR, you're not going to get caught, and a multi-game suspension, and in the beginning of a game, and forcing your team to play a man-down. Okay, you apologized for it. Great. But the repercussions of what you did, there is no amount of apologizing for that, in my opinion. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There also should have been a lot more penalties in this game against Panama.
Well, and I think the officiating is definitely something that is worth talking about. But for me, that comes second to like a lot of things you just talked about. I feel like the U.S. for a few years now have been a great highlight team where we can, obviously the first goal here and then, clips in the game where you think, wow, that was a really amazing moment that we did this, we did X, Y, Z. But over 90 minutes, you can see there's some more fouls there. Over 90 minutes, we struggle to have those connection of passes, and it turns into a lot of this kind of like we feed into their style. We're too chaotic. We don't have a real connection here with what we're going to do. And I think
what is that? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say from a goalkeeper's point of view, it's really tough to play with a team that is just like marbles on a floor where it's just kind of going different directions and there's no.
I like that analogy, marbles on a floor.
It feels like it when I'm watching the team. This will be the Uruguay highlights here, but we get these flashes of moments like, wow, that's great. But as a goalkeeper, it's very tough to play with a team where you kind of know something's going to break down at some point, and you'll have these great moments, but chaos is coming your way one way or another.
Yeah, and the goal against Panama, that she needs to be saved.
Yeah, I'll go back to here.
Yeah,
the first one here.
Yeah, it needs to be the one that goes right through his whatchamacallit's hand.
Second one.
Not the second one. I'd say the first one as well, but this second one, yes, it's from 7 yards out, but weights backwards. You get two hands there, but because his weight is falling backward, lean into that. You get two hands up, ball goes up over the crossbar, right? Yeah. But you are watch his lean. He double sets too wide, and he's leaning backwards, and it goes right through your hands. You've got to do better there. And as a team, again, there's no identity. There's no sense of rhythm. There's no sense of style, flow. What is your plan here? I'd love to know what Greg Berhalter's game plan was. This is how we're going to play. We're going to high press. We're going to try to maintain possession. We're going to knock the ball around. We're going to find the spaces in the outside, in the outside corners. There was no sense of anything. And they get so caught up in everybody else's fight. Like, what are you doing? Okay, you got taken down, right? Great. Okay, Pulisic, you got taken down. So your next reaction is to get up and shoulder the guy. So you're going to get a red card too, right? Because you're going to get and you didn't, because that ref's an idiot. But that referee should never work again, by the way. But again, you can't blame the ref, because guess what? The refs both sides.
Yeah,
and whether Pulisic wants to say, "Hey, go celebrate with Uruguay," but guess what? I mean, with Panama, guess what? Uruguay, that game had 3 goals. You didn't get it done. So you can blame everybody you want. You didn't get it. One of your teammates had a stupid foul, gets kicked out of the game. You are your own worst enemy. And the style, there's no sense of style. I mean, they haven't come anywhere since the World Cup.
Yeah. No, and I look, I'm all for being fair with the officiating and saying, okay, this wasn't great, this wasn't good. But at the end of the day, like, you've got to look at yourself first, and you got to look at yourself in the mirror, and you can't skip that part and say, well, we missed this, we didn't get these penalties. It's like we can't look at where we're at right now and think, okay, that we've covered that, and to all the points you've made.
I mean, I'm sure Germany is upset right now because that handball didn't get called.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, German, that's a mistake. I think it was a handball. I don't think his body was in a natural position. All right, so it's a bad call. VAR, you had 5, all the refs reviewed it, and you didn't get the call. You also, you lost the game in the 113th minute, and there's a lot of other factors that go into it. So yeah, you can whine and stuff like that, but you didn't get it done on the field, and you're not getting it done as a group. Listen, I love the guys. I want them to win. I want the U.S. to be successful in soccer, but what's on the field right now and the style and the product is not going to get it done. Yeah. And I agree I saw somebody post, if we weren't hosting the World Cup, we probably wouldn't qualify. Right.
Well, we didn't get out of the group for the Copa America, and we hosted there. So you have to kind of wonder, like, man, what are we going to do in the World Cup? Is it going to be a repeat? Now I was trying to think, okay, well, how does this tie into the women's national team? Because obviously it's a lot of different factors and different tournaments and this and that. But I think probably the big thing I took away from this game, to go back to the goal that you pointed out here. So Ethan Horvath, and we don't have it in here in the highlights, but in the first half, Matt Turner, the star of the U.S., gets taken out on a run. It's a long ball he comes up for. The runner comes out, takes his legs. He doesn't finish the game. I think he actually gets pulled at halftime. He finishes the half. But this is Ethan Horvath in here. Now, Horvath hasn't played a competitive, like a tournament-related game for the U.S. in a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when I see this play and this goal, for all the things that you criticize him for, which I think are fair, for me the issue is more like he looks kind of a bit skittish, which is understandable in my opinion, where you haven't really played a serious game for the U.S. in a year and a half, and you've been thrown in at halftime in a tight game. Your team's down a man, and now you've seen this sort of play, and this shot comes in pretty quick, and is that something you should say? Yes. But like from a systemic sort of thing, like this is not a good strategy to handle goalkeepers. Like if you're going to he needs to be ready to go.
He looks lost before this, and he's not organizing because the defense is standing around like a bunch of cones, right? And then they try to get goal side once that service is in. Oh, there are 3 players sitting there, and you're not goal side, and he's kind of lost here. Like, push your team up, first of all. And where's your defense? What's going on here? Yeah. Like, that window, you have 3 defenders there. That ball should never gotten through that window. Yeah. And so for me, yes, I understand that he hasn't played, but he is playing. So it's just not good enough for me.
I'm with you from the individual. I think Horvath probably looks at this and like, yeah, I kind of blew that opportunity. And who knows what happens if he comes in and holds his tie? That's the type of goal that if he saves it, he should be saving it. But it's also the type of save where everyone's like, oh my goodness, well, a few minutes left in the game. But right. It's a kind of a gimmick in some sense. But it's also something that can kind of like kickstart or jumpstart his career with the U.S. again, because he's been so in and out. Mm-hmm. But from like a managerial standpoint, it's really foolish to sit someone on the bench for so long and put them in one of the most high pressure situations you can think of, where your back's up against the wall, you're down a person, you really need a result here, and to say, hey, like, you're ready to go, right? I haven't played you at all before, but I'm going to put you in now. It's like, I don't.
But that falls back, and we saw that done for a long time with the U.S. women, and unfortunately still gets done. Where even Nair sitting behind Solo for so long, and we've talked about that, where we had less opportunity to get caps, but Tony found a way to get them for us, And when I say less up, there weren't that many tournaments. Like, we went to like one tournament a year and maybe had 2 friendlies, So with the amount of friendlies that the U.S. men play and the amount of tournaments, the goalkeepers need to be playing. And I agree with that. So when you turn around, you look, and your goalkeepers haven't played with those players, haven't played in pressure situations, you want to say you should always be ready. But the truth of the matter is, you see what happens, and he's not. And now you're out of Copa America. So, and I don't think Berhalter should stay the coach. I don't. I don't think he should have been brought back. I'm baffled on why he was brought back after a debacle in Qatar, and then after the whole Gio Reyna thing, and after talking his smack and publicly and everything. Move on, everybody. Move on, because it didn't get done in Qatar. What is going to change? And nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Yeah. Style, nothing. Nothing's changed. So I don't know.
I think the lack of change is obviously a huge thing. But for me, there should really never, I say never, you should really try to minimize the opportunities and moments where you're putting someone in a position where they're not prepared to go, they're not ready to go. And I think that goal is a great example, but also just, we want to point fingers at the players, this and that. At some point, people have to take accountability. I think Berhalter, obviously, he needs to take accountability, but then it's, okay, who was involved in rehiring him again? And looking up the ladder, okay, people have doubled down on the choice to the things that you said earlier before he got rehired. There's already enough signs of hey, what are you really going to gain out of this? If you're going to,
it's something going to change all of a sudden. That was what's weird to me. It's I don't understand that. And whoever, wherever that decision came from and everything, it'd be like hiring Vladko back.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a good analogy for me. A comparison. It'd be like hiring Vladko back and saying, okay, it's going to be different now.
Yeah.
And him turning around and putting Julie Ertz on the Olympic team, even though she's pregnant. Which I didn't but that's that. Why would you do that? He didn't have success with the U.S. team. It didn't work, out of the World Cup, but she's still hiring him back. So I wouldn't understand that, just like I don't understand this.
Well, and Vlatko is actually a great example because he's doing admittedly very well with Kansas City and and so you can look at that and be but the reality as a coach, especially, when you're starting into your later years, you really kind of figured out what you're going to do in your style. So to bring someone back in, you're not going to really see a different, if it didn't work the first time, bring them back in. And I think, coaches thrive and fail in certain environments, and Vlatko's a great example where you can't deny the success he's having and he's doing well, and by all reports, I think he's a decently respected coach. But did it work for that time? Well, no, it didn't work. So to go back to that well and then expect a different result, you're just being overly optimistic. And whether it's the men's team or the women's team, it's a very, very similar issue. So I don't think there's a whole lot to take from the men's getting grouped. But I do think there's a little bit of hey, I think the 2 big things for me was one, don't put a goalkeeper in if they're not ready to go, and don't set them up for failure. And we've talked about the cap thing a number of times, but also 2, don't lean into the opposition style. And we saw it with Panama. There was a great example. Panama wanted the U.S. to get upset and to start bickering, to hit them in the back of the head. We played.
Well, because we know that Weston McKennie, we know certain people react, right? They've proven it when they're playing pro, right? Sure. And we know that, and I'm sure Panama knows that, and they're kick them because they're gonna lose their minds, and they're gonna lose control, and they have no control of themselves. And you kick them, and what happens? Red cards, chaos. If I was playing against the US team and I was a coach, I'd be like, go out and kick them. Go ahead.
Yeah, go step on their toes. Go like annoy them.
Give a nudge, annoy them, because you will provoke them.
Now, I do need to find the clip because I was curious on your take on this. And I'll pull it up here in a second because I got to go download it real quick and pull it in. But the Matt Turner foul. So to quickly describe it, long ball comes in, Matt Turner goes up. I don't think it was malicious, but a Panamanian striker comes through, takes his legs out. Matt Turner flips and lands on his shoulder, doesn't finish the game. I was curious of watching that. What would you say if that happened in game for the 99ers, where let's say you or Scurry go out from an injury? For me, it was weird seeing the men's team really have no response to that, where there didn't seem like any sense of protection. There didn't seem any sorts of like, hey, we got to go get that guy, like pay him back a little bit. Well, how would have y'all responded, just out of curiosity, of seeing your goalkeeper get injured, have to leave the game? Like, it seemed for the men's team, it was kind of like, okay, well, it happened, and we move on.
Well, but then you run into what I'm arguing about. Like, okay, so what are you going to do? Like, I think that's old school. I mean, like, I know that when I played at Rutgers and I've been taken out, like, I know at some point their goalkeeper got taken out. Like, I think that's old school, Jersey style. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, but that goes against what I'm saying. I'm like, if you're going to know that you're going to go get somebody back, like payback, if that's what you're talking about, like almost like in baseball, if you hit somebody with a pitch, you know somebody else is going to get hit with a pitch. But I think that, again, you're playing into Panama then. And I think a reaction, yes. Like revenge, no.
Yeah,
like that would be my thing. Like, I don't feel that, and I might be wrong, and I'd love to talk to Carla and my defense and stuff like that about it, and say, if this had happened, what would your response be? And that was never our response. It was never like, okay, somebody mark it number 15. Somebody's got to get number 15 at some point. Okay. I think our response was putting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, like, that's it. Yeah, you go beat them. Yeah. Here.
So, and that's just number one. It's hard to say what the hell was he doing. Like, he doesn't go up. He just runs right through Matt Turner. So, and you see him look. So he knows Turner's there. So whether you want to say it's malicious or not, I think he took a shot at the keeper. I think he knew he wasn't going to get to the ball, and he jumped into him. He doesn't go up for a header here. He's not pushed. He just runs straight. Yeah, he's not.
No, I think that's fair. I think I'll say this. I think it's equally reckless from Panama as it is stupid from Turner, if I'm just being completely honest. Because I think you're right. He's not going to get to the ball. He knows the keeper's in the area, whether it's going to be a punch or a catch here. He's not really even making an attempt off of it. I think, if I'm just being honest, I think he's going in to put some pressure, but I don't think he's going in like, I'm going to clear him out. But because Turner's gone in a weird way where he's catching across his body here, or trying to square up on it, and which opens up his legs. So what ends up happening is, because he's caught in like a back drift motion, he opens up his legs to kind of get leverage and get flipped over. Where
I think the bigger fail here is the defense not protecting that.
Yeah, you think that they be a bit more
like he just lets him go. He lets him go, and look at him. He's like, okay, I'm not going to get involved, but you know your keeper's coming. Your keeper's called keeper. Your job now is to kind of keep that attacker off your keeper in some way, like still like create a barrier, like create a block, and he doesn't. He goes like this. Okay, go ahead. You go one-on-one with my keeper.
Yeah.
So this injury. I'm like, you let the Panama player run into Matt Turner. That's how I would look at it. I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? You have to protect me if I'm coming up, because I am vulnerable, you know? Yeah. And so, okay, go ahead.
No, and I think, I mean, you go back to like the lack of style play. Like, this is kind of a component of it. Of like, hey, it's not just Matt Turner's responsibility to go get this ball single-handedly. To your point, like Robinson there, like needs to kind of box out and like, at least make it more difficult. I think he's maybe worried about the like fouling him, and I think he's probably being a bit optimistic that Turner's going to be fine. But because Turner's like opened up in a weird way, and Turner's being very optimistic that he's not going to get any you know, like and I don't love the whole like raised knee to protect yourself, because really you're just using that to like endanger someone else.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with a raised knee. It has to do with him getting
you're absolutely right.
That wouldn't have stopped it, you know?
Yeah, like if he squares his shoulders up on the runner, then it comes in and he can handle that a lot more. But because he's kind of like drifted off, like it's easy for him to get his legs swept under. And so I think it's, again, I think it's kind of
a little reckless
here where, man, you've got to think that someone's going to put some pressure on you. And if they run into your chest, that's one thing. But if they kick your legs out, you have no protection here. As you see, like he's just falling directly on that shoulder. And, you know, thankfully he's okay. You know,
but you got to protect your keeper. The defense just basically served Matt up on a platter and said, all right, you know, go ahead. You know, I'm not going to box you out. I'm not going to do anything. That I think I'd turn around and be like, what are you doing? Like your job isn't done because Matt calls keeper. Like, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of, I mean, just really disappointments from the U.S. on the whole there, from, you know, that play specifically, but just in the tournament as well. As somehow we are organized yet kind of lost at the same time. When you can see that there's some organization out there, but at the same time, that's a great play, and the goals, like people are just getting moments like, well, I don't know what to do. I got organized, and
I don't understand why they get caught in, like, again, what is your style? Who is the US? So is every game going to be a chaotic track meet? Because that's the way Panama plays. It's the way Uruguay plays. It's the way Mexico plays. Like, are you just always going to play into their style, or are you going to say, listen, let's slow this game down? I would have said, slow the game down. You guys are chicken with your heads cut off right now. And you're playing into what Panama wants, chaos. Slow it down. Take Panama's game away from Panama. Don't play the style they want you to play. And that's the problem. Other teams dictate the way the United States plays.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done with the men.
We're good. We'll move off from that. And I want to shift gears a little bit here, because I've noticed something that I think is going fairly unreported, or I mean, to a larger degree than I expected. So we've talked a good bit about this upcoming USL Super League, and they're doing a few things differently than the NWSL. And I think, to their credit, I don't think that they're coming out, and I've got no sense. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got no sense that they say, hey, we're going to compete directly with NWSL because we think we're going to be as good as them as year one. I don't really get that sense. I think they're going Division I status. I get that. But part of the reason I point to is, and I've got two here, but the Carolinas have signed two teenage goalkeepers. I believe they're 18 and 17. But this is Charlotte Berge here, who has spent time with Bay FC, went over to Germany. And then we also have Molly Vapinski, who both these are new names for me, if I'm being honest. I believe Molly was committed to Duke, if I'm not mistaken, but they've both signed. Now, I might be missing some info on this. I'm pretty sure they've signed to full contracts, and so they've just lost their eligibility here. I don't know if there's some sort of amateur contract that they could sign. I will say, when I was reading Molly's bio from Carolina, they don't mention anything about her committing to Duke. So with them like losing her recruit now, I guess that makes sense. But I was curious, you know, we're starting to enter this new era, I guess, and we'll see kind of where it's going. Just time will tell. But we have not one, but two teenage goalkeepers going pro on the same team at that. Now, the head coach, Philip Poole, obviously part of the U.S. Soccer and goalkeeper in the goalkeeper circle. So it's not a total surprise to see that he's the head coach and bringing in young goalkeepers. However, I do think it's very fascinating that we've got some young goalkeepers signing pro contracts. And I'm just going to go through some highlights here that I've found off YouTube. Here's Molly's here. But I'm curious on your thoughts of young goalkeepers going pro at 17, 18. I mean, is this all positive? Is it all negative? I mean, where do we stand on this, Saskia?
Well, on this right now, I tell her to catch the ball. But if we're looking at our thing, I think I understand the thought of developing a young goalkeeper, but you bring in a seasoned goalkeeper as well. You're a brand new team in a brand new league with Division I status. You do want to compete at a high level, and I think to bring in two young goalkeepers you're rolling the dice there, and the level, the pace, and everything has yet to be seen. I know some players that are going, and they played in the NWSL. They played, pro overseas and stuff like that. They're good players. I've seen some players that are going. I think you still see maybe a drop level, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how the league's going to develop, but I think it's a big order. It's a tall task to ask an 18-year-old. Now, if you think the level is going to be comparable to like D1 top ranked college, then yeah, you're fine. Because an 18-year-old would come into a D1 top ranked college and possibly start, maybe sit 1 year and play. So if that's the level that you think the USL is going to start out, then I understand. But if you expect the USL to start at a level comparable to NWSL, I think it's a tall order. I think then you bring in an 18-year-old and you bring in like a 25-year-old. Yeah. That's been playing pro somewhere. That would be my opinion on it. But it depends on what level you think this league's going to be at.
So they've pulled in some pros already. We've gone over some few names. So for me, kind of where I'm seeing goalkeepers, like you're basically getting more or less the best non-NWSL American goalkeepers out there. Like your Addie Gay is going to be in the league. I have to go back and look off top. Casa Morche is going to be in the league. She was just in France. Like, you're getting these goalkeepers that weren't quite in the NWSL, and maybe they get there, but it seems like they're not going to quite get there. But you're still getting what's best left over, which I think that's good. Which I think that's also above the Division I level. So I think ideally, and we'll see, they're still putting the roster together. And I'll go up and put Charlotte's highlights. We just watched Molly. This is the other goalkeeper here. But I'm with you. I think you need a veteran here. And that one's a little tricky because what do you want out of the veteran? Do you want someone that is not going to play, and so you give time to the young goalkeepers, or do you want someone who's going to set a high standard? If
you're also looking at, it's how are you looking at the position? Like, are you looking at you're going to ask an 18-year-old to be basically, we all know goalkeeper's a captain spot. Like, you have to be a leader. You have to organize, you have to communicate, you have to read the game and understand the game. And we've talked about this. That comes with experience and it comes with age, which is why goalkeepers do get better with age. And I joked with Lizzie Prue the other day. I was just like, yeah, but then there's a cutoff point to that because then your back just starts hurting. But but it's not just, are you a good athletic goalkeeper? Are you a shot stopper? Can you make saves? It's can you control a team? Can you manage from the back? Do you have that ability? And I think it's I don't know the keepers. I think it's a tall order. It has yet to be seen, but that is why you bring in somewhat of a veteran on a brand new team in a brand new league to set some sort of a precedence back there, to say, you have to be a leader, and you need leaders in the goal.
Yeah. You think from a young goalkeeper standpoint, what boxes are they likely going to have checked off? And I think from there, I'm not surprised to see, one of them was going to Duke. It's like, that lines up.
Yeah.
The first goalkeeper we showed there, Molly, she's spent time with the U15, U17 national teams, totally checks out. But what does she have in her game, and what does she not have in her game right now? And I think like the bravery, the athleticism, the shot stopping, like you're saying, like that's the sort of stuff you really get at kind of that first, really time as a goalkeeper. But the later stuff, and we can go back to the Panama stuff, like how are you going to control the game? And I think this is why when you hear people talk about Nicole Barnhart, who's still playing, which is kind of crazy, but there's such a reverence for what she's bringing, even though I'm going to guess when Barnhart's training, she's probably not doing like the hoops and jumping in everything. I think at 42, like what you train like looks different. However, she's still going to bring something that's not only helpful.
It's that leadership.
Yeah.
And you see Barney on the sideline, and you see her with that leadership, even if she's not playing, and people respecting her and her talking to the team and talking to people. And that's what I'm talking about. And it's a new team. And so you need that sense of leadership, and somebody to help run your defense. And I think that's a tall order from young goalkeepers. Now, I'm sure that it's possible a goalkeeper surprises me. I haven't seen it yet. And I think that's why we've talked about this, that, you know, you don't see, even with the NWSL, you see some of these you see some young keepers training with the NWSL teams, but they're not on the bench, and they're not in the goal. And because it takes time. So we'll see.
You gotta think, like, if you're really gonna go make this jump, and this is kind of where my question is, like, what are we gonna look like in 12 months for these two keepers here? Have they just sat on the bench? Because in my head, it's like, well, you can go sit on the bench anywhere. Like, you don't need to sign a contract to go sit on the bench and just train with people, like, as you're saying there. So ideally that they're getting some minutes, but at the same time, I'm with you. Like, you need to have someone who's going to lead in the pack here. And I think that's tough as a 17, 18-year-old. Like, you're in some sense setting them up to fail. Now, again, they haven't finished out the roster, so we'll see where they're going. But
yeah, I mean, it's possible that they have two 18-year-olds and they bring in another a veteran goalkeeper. That's totally possible.
Yeah, very likely.
Yeah.
So, what would you say if let's say you had, a goalkeeper who's 17, 18-year-old, and they've been presented with a similar situation? What would your advice be to them to kind of figure out if it's a good fit or a not good fit as far as skipping college? So let's say it's another USL, Super League team. What are you looking to say? Okay, hey, they're doing this. That's a bad sign. You need to stay away from this. Oh, they're doing this. That's a good sign.
Well, I mean, it's a tall task, because it's a tall question, because everybody's different. And I think, if this is springboarding you, if you want to play pro and you don't want to go the college route, you say, I look at this USL as an opportunity to get playing at a higher level than college would be playing, at a faster pace with professionals that will springboard me into, who knows, maybe, stay in the USL or go get picked up and play pro overseas, or play pro in the NWSL. Like, so the argument lies in do I have a better path to my professional career if I skip the college level and play one step above? If the USL plays at that level, like, and I'm assuming it's going to, like, I don't think it's going to be, I think it'll be a step above. College. I do. Like I said, I know a lot of, we see a lot of the players, we know that they're professionals, and, I know how they play. And so it will be a step above. So I think I would say I understand the path, Yeah. I get that. I think what you're going to find is you will see NWSL teams pay attention to what's going on in players in the USL and see how they are excelling and thriving and playing, and whether you're going to see people get bought when their contracts are up and move over to NWSL or move over, to a European team or something. I think you'll see that. So I think that's what it's hard for me to tell somebody not to go to college.
Well, and I think that's like what it kind of comes down to for me.
But that's old school for me.
Well, and you've got like a pretty established route with college, right? You kind of know what to expect. There's going to be some ebb and flow with goalkeeper coaches and coaches.
But the other argument, it's only 3 months.
Yeah, and so I think for me, and I'm not saying this about Charlotte and Molly, I won't put this on them, but if you've got a player that's like, I really don't care about, getting the education as near as much as my peers do, and obviously, they probably like to get it if they could, but it's not something that they're dead set on, and they're just really wanting to, like, they're saying, hey, I just really want to be a pro. I want to do this.
Exactly. Then go. And I also think you're also looking at 3 months compared to a full season playing pro, which is 8 months. So that's the other issue. And that's, what we always talk about with college, that you don't play that much. As you're not supposed to, because you're in college. So I think that if that is your goal, then yes, the USL is the right decision for a 17 or an 18-year-old goalkeeper. Yeah. And I do think you'll see more and more of them going that route to try to get their foot into the door, or hey, the USL can take off, and people don't want to leave. I'm not saying it's just like a springboard to go to better professional leagues. We have to wait and see how good the league is.
Yeah. Well, and you also have to think, there's obviously no going back on it, right? Once you lose your eligibility, you lose. And I don't know, again, how the contracts are structured, because I know on the men's side, there's some, I don't know as much as I should, but I know there's amateur contracts you can sign, and you can play where you don't forgo your eligibility. So that might be the situation. I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, you can just go to, like, University of Phoenix online.
Yeah. You can find your education, but I'll always respect someone who's willing to bet on themselves and say, hey, like, I'll do this, but you got to know it's risky. University of Phoenix, I'm sure it's great for what it is, but at the end of the day, like, it's a different route than going to Duke, for example.
Right. No, knock against that. Hey, get your education one way or the other.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I did want to go over the idea of summer league ball. Now, I have a couple of clips here. I'll say this is from the USL's summer league, the W League, which is a little confusing because that's what Australia calls their league. But this is their best saves from last month. I was hoping they'd have July's up, but these are from June here. Or these from May, excuse me. Yeah. And so these are, I was hoping to see June's by now, but these are just best saves. And so when I see these clips, first of all, like, I'm not going to say every save is great. There's a number of these saves in here that I'm thinking like, oh, wow, that was pretty impressive. There's one, especially when it comes up, I'll point it out. But I'm curious on your take on Summer League. Like, is that valuable? Is it a waste of time? Is it just a way to get injured? I mean, when you think of playing Summer League ball for collegiate athletes and specifically the goalkeepers, where do you stand on that, Saskia?
Well, first of all, I mean, how many of those games are on turf? I'm like, that would be brutal. Listen, I think it is important for the keepers. I think, especially the ones that aren't playing, getting the minutes. It would be hypocritical of me to say, yeah, you could get injured, but and at the same time say you need playing time, you need to see games. So especially for keepers, you need to see games. And if you're not getting the minutes in your regular season, you got to find a way to get the minutes, because like we just saw, if you're sitting on a bench for a year and a half and not getting seen, then you're called in at the last minute, you got to be ready. And with, for college, especially, we just said you don't have that many games. It's 3 months. So you could never see the light of day or the game and at all if you don't get this playing in. So I do think it's important.
Yeah.
Especially for keepers.
I think that's the key, like especially for keepers part. Like a lot of these keepers, who knows where they're coming from. And I'll just one clip at the end. So I'll say this as well. Incredibly annoying that there's no names or teams on this. Like they just put this video. It's like, hey, look at these great saves. Like, please tell us who these goalkeepers are. Like, I don't know. Like, and I get that they're not all like gonna, go play in the NWSL. And so in some sense you think, well, what does it matter? Like, hey, let's celebrate someone for making a great save. But when you're coming from a situation where whether you're the starter or backup, but especially for the backup, and you're not getting those minutes during the season, and maybe you see a couple minutes in the spring, the summer league, of which there is more than just the USL W League here. But going to a summer league team is huge because as a goalkeeper, especially, one, the minutes, but also you've got to find ways to make things work with people who aren't your normal teammates and you're not super comfortable with. I think it's this next clip coming up. I'll credit her because I actually had to look it up. But this is Blythe Braun. Now unfortunately our camera is zoomed out, but from here there's a couple of things I really love.
Hey, it's like the Panama game.
Yeah, it's zoomed all the way from the top. But I love this, and I'll just highlight real quick of on the set here from shot. You can see her take her shuffle and go over, which I see a lot of goalkeepers just instantly go into their dive. So this is Blythe Braun, who's just transferred to Syracuse. Actually, she just left FAU, but she moves her feet, and then also a nice stretch to the top. They're not quite in the upper 90. But it's a good footwork there. And that's the sort of thing. It's like, hey, like, let's put her name on it. Like, let's see who it is. I don't have to go dig it up and figure out who it is.
Well, I think the other thing is the minutes are what's important, right? So if you're not getting minutes on your college team and your goal is to play after college, and you basically don't play in college because you're sitting behind somebody, that means you have just spent 4 years, let's say you go the full boat, 4 seasons, not playing, and training, and now you are so far behind game minutes wise, and anybody else trying to that's going pro, that's been playing. So it's imperative to get your games in however you can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it goes a long ways of, I get the training environment is super important and you want to get that piece right. But there's just things you cannot train in a training environment. And and like for myself, I'm 6'3", so there's not too many strikers that are 6'3" and 35 years old, striking ball. Like that's not who you're seeing real shots against. Like there's something about getting real minutes against people who you're actually playing against, who's actual level. The training's great, but it's just training. It's not the real deal. So the summer league stuff, I mean, you may not, I know some teams are on probation and they're not even able to challenge for their respective summer league championship, but you're still playing 90 minutes. You're still getting out there. That goes a long ways. And I feel like that's something that a lot of goalkeepers will be like, well, I've been training. I have good training film. It's like, well, yeah, that's not going to always translate.
No,
so.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Get out there, play.
Yeah. You got to go bet on yourself. So, yeah. All right. So last thing here, we did a lot of errors last week. So we're going to swing back here. We're on the pendulum swing here, but this is, I got to pull it up. These are the highlights from the NWSL's last week here. And this is going to start off with Alyssa Nair here off the start. Big save there from Nair, and I think honestly that's kind of her strength of her game. So I was actually really thrilled to see this because after last week I was like, man, I feel like I kind of beat her up a little bit. Just
me too. Like sometimes I feel bad sometimes, but
So
not really.
You're trying to keep that balanced here, and
it's a great
positive negative. So I'll just rewind it there because I think that's kind of Nair's like strong suit in the game.
This is a great. First of all, it's a great shot by Shaw. But it's an even better save. It's just a world-class big-time save. I mean, Shaw off the half turn gets all of this. It's going up upper 90, and Nair just gets that little shuffle step in and gets that hand to it. And you could do this shot 5 more times, and the save might not be made. 4 of them. Yeah. But
absolutely.
It's a huge save. It's a huge save. Well done. And when I saw this, I was just like, all right, well, maybe she heard us last week and was like, this is what I can do, and this is what I bring to the game.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me of the England save of like how she stretched out because it's a little bit off her body, so she has to go up and over. Yeah, which it can be tricky as a goalkeeper to really get that like angle just right. Does a fantastic job,
and I love she goes backhand because so many you don't always have to go top hand.
Right.
You got to get something on it. And it's possible if she tries to go top hand with this across her body, she misses this and she doesn't make the save. She gets there and she gets that hand to it. It's a really good save.
Well, and that bottom hand's always going to get there a little quicker. And so you've got to think like risk reward. Like if you're low on time, which she definitely is, and here it comes in really quick to just get a hand there and you're already close enough to either the crossbar or the post. You don't need much to push it off. But if you're going top hand, like you said, it might just be a little too slow.
And I'll tell you what, Shaw scores this, and this is one of the best goals of the season.
Oh yeah, it looks great. Like no one's blaming Nair for that.
So it's one of the best saves so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Good job. It's good stuff. So we're not saying anything mean today.
Yeah. We'll keep it positive. We'll keep it positive. Yeah, good save. We will hopefully see more of that in the Olympics here. So a little help from a teammate here. And I love how it just ends up in Nair's hands at the end of the play. Yeah. But hey, it's team defending at the end of the day. I will say it's a little clunky from Nair, and you can say this or that. I will say I'll give her a bit of half a compliment here. Simply putting pressure on the striker allows a chance, right? I think she catches this a little bit off her ribs or so. Like
I think that
there's at least a chance that something can happen as opposed to like completely missing the play, completely being out of sorts. I think it could be a little cleaner, but it's tough because that ball's up. So she's trying to figure out her hands off of it.
I don't have anything bad to say about this. And the reason is because it's a mishit by our defender. And I think she's caught where she's caught positionally. So right here, she's caught positionally. She can't she's coming, right? So you see that she's coming. So now she's like, all right, I think you'd see a lot of keepers that would set here and be like, okay, what's Alex Morgan going to do? And then you get this ball gets flicked over their head. And instead she's like, so this ball doesn't get flicked over my head. I'm in no man's land. I'm going to come and I'm just going to just make myself big and have Alex hit it into me. So I have nothing bad to say about this, because I think the opposite decision to hold, we'd see a lot of goalkeepers do, and then you get chipped. And I think just come, make yourself big. Alex hits it into her. It's not clean in a sense, but it's not a clean situation. And I give her this is good decision making on my side, because I know
Well, that's a good way of putting it. It's not a clean situation. And you can see with her hands, like, if I'm guessing, she's like leaning forward, thinking about like the loft over her.
Yep.
So I think she's worried about that. And that you can see where she's trying to get on top of it, almost hit it back down. But again, it's not a clean situation. So this is one, and go back to the training point. Like, you can't really train this play. Like, I don't know.
You can't train like a shin ball miss that drops into Alex Morgan running on. You're caught in no man's land. You're caught coming. Do you set to see what Alex is going to do, or do you come and make yourself big? This is experience. This is, I just got to come and close the space, because Alex is going to chip me, which is what I think Alex is trying to do.
I think I died laughing seeing this play, because it ends up in Nair's hands at the end, just because it gets good into her.
I thought it was funny too.
And then also, I mean, I don't think has she scored yet? I don't know. I haven't tracked it more.
Alex hasn't. No, she missed the PK.
Yeah. Well, then
remember, she misses the PK in this game.
So there's a lot of layers to this save here, but I'm with you on this. This is a tricky play, and again, something you just can't train, and you gotta go bet on yourself. You gotta make one decision, not two half decisions, and
exactly.
So that's good. That's good. Let's see on this next play here. That was fine. It's just off her shoulder a little bit there. So, I don't know. I feel like that's one of those, like, if it goes in, it doesn't look great sort of thing, but like, you did your job and kept it out.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mind her positioning really on it, because this comes so direct towards near post. She could she one times it, and so I don't mind her position. She's a little square. And
why are they congratulating her for that? Why is she getting a high five for like not scoring? I don't understand. Hey, good job, you didn't score.
Good shot, high five.
Yeah, you shot the ball, great.
Yeah, so I'm not, because I'd like this taken first time. I'm not mad. I think the positioning's good. Again, maybe I'm just in a good mood today. I don't know, but but I like.
Well, I'll even add another compliment. Like, I like how there's the complexity of, you have the communication, and her positioning changes as the play goes along. She doesn't just kind of anchor down somewhere. So like, you can see where she is here,
and then she comes over. She adjusts to that service, and is ready for the first time shot, and she's organized the back post, so she's not thinking, what if she slots this? First of all, she can't, because the defense is organized. So there's really only one window here, and she's closed it. So I think this is good organization, good goalkeeping. So I'm like I said, I'm in a good mood today, I guess.
Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, that's good. We'll get to Kingsbury. That's good. Yeah, I think we've got one more here at the end. I forget what it is.
All right, one more. Let's do it.
Last one. Oh, Hogan. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Hey, this is the ever popular split save here, and you're seeing this from a young goalkeeper. You're not seeing it from someone who's well into their career. So it sounds like she's adopted this pretty well. The timing's good on it too, I'll say. And I think with Hogan's game as well, like, I think we all know, like, doesn't have the quickest feet in the world. So she plays within that. She's maybe sitting a little low, but also she kind of suckers the striker in here to kind of get her into a favorable spot where, like, this is now something a goalkeeper can handle. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can see someone play.
I think she was deep. I think there are a lot of different ways. I think she uses a split save well. I think because her movement, if she were to set, she's too far. It's weird, because I think it's the right decision for her movement.
Yeah.
Because she's still moving forward. So because she's still moving forward, she has to do the split save, because she can't, with that momentum, she can't get down. So I think it's the right decision for her movement to the ball. I do think she was too deep initially, but you know, at the same time, maybe not. Maybe she gets if she is too far out, maybe she gets chipped. So I'm all about shipping today, I guess. But I think it's. I'll give it to Hogan. I think it's the right decision for her movement on this.
When you think about, I mean, she's got this touch here, so you got to think, well, you don't want to get too high too quick,
right? Exactly.
And then the big touch kind of opens the door.
Yeah.
So I think knowing like where her strengths and weaknesses lie, like I'm pretty positive and thrilled with this play here. That's a big. That's probably one of the bigger saves, if not the biggest save I've seen from her this season.
Yeah, it's a good save. It's a good save. It's good timing, good movement. It's a good split save. It's a good example of a split save.
Yeah, that's when you want to use it. Yeah, it's good.
Right on. See, I was in a good mood today, Bill.
we'll see. Yeah, so the men's national team bottoming out didn't change your demeanor too much. So you're fine.
Yeah, I got it all out in the beginning.
That's good. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Yeah. Well, everyone, thanks for stopping by and Gloves Off. Saskia, where can we find you?
You can find me on the Union at Saskia or on other social media handles, Saskia_Weber.
Yeah, very good. And I'm Bill Reno. I'm on the same apps as well. You can find me on the Union app. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. We're around here. So I'm looking forward to getting closer to the Olympics here. I think it's going to be good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Yeah. Oh, good.
All right,
well, everyone, thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you next week.